So, what do you know about quiet cracking? It's this thing that I came across. Fortune have coined the phrase quiet cracking. And it's the idea that so many people at work are actually giving up cracking. They do not view their work as meaningful. They're showing up, but they really aren't contributing substantively. And there's a number of reasons for this. And I think there's a couple of interesting mitigating factors. But they talk about how this is ultimately, between half a trillion and $1 trillion worth of impact to productivity globally, because people are just showing up perfunctory, going through the motions. They don't really care about their job. They don't really care about what they're doing. And there's a number of reasons for this. I think there's a ton of BS in business that people have to deal with. They have to go to meetings that they do not speak at under the guise of, well, you need to be informed or you need to be updated. They go through performance management processes that are largely performance based. They don't view HR as a support function that's there to sort of help resources. Not that they should be, but instead it almost seems to be a gotcha function where they're looking for reasons to sort of talk about why their performance hasn't been what it should be or why it's less than stellar. There's politics that they have to go through. They have to deal with people whose egos are really, really big in the office and who don't get checked. They have to deal with people where management know they aren't performing, but they're not taking action on it. So I might be a really good I might have really good ideas, but I'm really bad in working with other people, and management kind of condone that. And now as a worker, I have to deal with that. So there's all sorts of stuff that goes on in this organism that we call an organization or a team. I fundamentally believe that no one wakes up in the morning saying, I want to have a bad day. But so many people do. So there's something inherently wrong with how we are running these workplaces where people come together. I think not only a friend of mine just texted me and we were talking about this article and kind of made the observation that, well, there's so much more happening all the time, right? You've got Slack notifications going off all the time. By the way, I turned every notification off and it was a massive shift in how I just regarded my phone. I used to hate my phone. I actually don't hate it quite as much anymore. It's still not great, but I don't hate it quite as much. But you've got Slack notifications going off. You've got calls that you've got to be on. All this stuff never ends. Emails that never end. We're more global than we ever have been. And if you're on a global team, you're going to get things sent at all hours. You wake up not to an empty inbox. Like even, maybe 15 years ago, we might have walked in and found our inbox was relatively quiet. You now walk in the morning and your inbox is heavy. It's loaded with stuff that's come in overnight through teams that are working in other parts of the world or customers even that have been sending you stuff. Not only that, you've got automations coming in. So if you work in Asana or Trello or something else, you've got all these things popping in. If you use a CRM tool, you've got HubSpot that, magically will send you 15 action items that you have to take. So you never feel like you're ever on top of it. And not only that, but now couple that dimension with the fact that if you're working remotely or hybrid, there are probably significant parts of your day when you're back to back on calls, you're on a screen, and when you hit end, you kind of shut your eyes, you might look away, but it doesn't go away. But more importantly, there's no social outlet. Now, when we were all in the office or in an office or whatever the case might have been, we could hang up on a call or walk out of an office actually, and we'd talk about it. We'd have a bit of banter. There'd be a little bit of a release valve. Well, right now there's none of that. So your home office becomes this place that is associated with everything that is heavy and hard about work, the unrelenting nature of it. You wake up to it, you go to sleep to it. It's there all the time. Some people I've kind of unscientifically started to observe even feel guilty not being on it all the time. And it requires sort of almost coaching to get them through that phase where they feel they can be unattached. It took me a while after I left corporate America to really kind of not feel guilty about being unattached all the time. But this whole idea of quiet cracking is really quite insidious because what's happening is it's quite contagious also. So if you have a team of people and they don't feel that they are valued, that they feel that work is just monotonous, boring, dull, unexciting, it's hard to get anything done. And when they do get something done, it's often not recognized, again, because we're probably not in the office to talk about it all the time. And it becomes an expectation. Well, it's your job to do that, so go and do it. And work feels just like work. It doesn't feel like anything more. And I think we've lost such a big part of our identities and who we are when this happens. Because ultimately, we are who we are at work. I might be a dad, I might be a husband, but I'm also, in my case now, a business owner. And that's a core part of who I am. So if things go well at work, I tend to find myself in a very different disposition than I am when things aren't going as well. The same is true for every one of us who have a job, and we kind of find that that identity extends. So it's really important. It's not just kind of, oh, gosh, all right, well, there's a little bit of quiet cracking going on. No, no, no. What that's doing, unfortunately, is also impacting who we are at work, as well as who we are at home. So our families feel it. In fact, we probably tend to take it out on our families, maybe even more than we would with our colleagues at work, because we've got to kind of keep up appearances a little bit. But I can be short with my wife or annoyed with my kids because, frankly, the people who are closest to us forgive us the most, usually, and so we take it out on them a lot. But this quiet cracking is having it has an effect on how we are at home as well. I just don't think that's okay. I think it's really, really bad, and it's the moral impact beyond just the impact it has at work is horrible. So what can we do about it? Because it's real. I'm working with teams that have gone through significant rounds of layoffs, and they're just feeling overwhelmed. Like, I've got to get everything done and more with fewer people. And or I've got the situation now where AI is coming to help me one day, and then it's taking my job away the next day, and I have no real idea. Maybe I can hire somebody. Maybe I can't hire somebody to help us out. I have more dashboards, more things to take care of. There's just this kind of overwhelm. And I think one of the most important things that teams can do is really help everybody get grounded on the impact that that business can have. Look, we have one life, and we choose to spend a working day where we choose to spend a working day, sometimes because we have no options or we feel we have no options, but usually some element of choice. I choose to apply to a job in a company, and that's what I'm going to, that's what I'm going to do. But I think if we're able to go a step further and really help everybody appreciate how what they do is helping us get a product out the door, that is helping someone somewhere substantively with their life, it can really start to help us find a bit more meaning. If you can really help me to create an environment where I know that you care about how effective I am and can be. And if there are things that are getting in the way, you eliminate those things, or we talk about them. Let's talk about why the production is slow at 3:00 in the morning. Let's figure out what's going on. Ask me for my input. Maybe I can solve the problem. Maybe together we can solve the problem. But I just find managers today are sometimes a little bit task orientated at the expense of really being meaningfully engaged in understanding how things could improve. They think they know how things could improve. But let's be clear, the way work is done today is very different from the way it was done even 2 or 3 years ago. So if you were managing a function, or if you were doing a job 2 or 3 years ago, it's not fair to assume that you know how to manage it today. And I don't think we take enough time to really engage deeply in asking people what can be improved, what can be changed, what they can do differently. So I think there are a number of things. One is connecting us a little bit more to the job that we do, helping me see how what I'm doing today, how that call I'm about to take, or that product I'm building, or the budget that I'm reconciling, helps us ship a product or a service that's really going to help a customer meaningfully. And that in turn will be good for the world. Not to be grand about this, but if I choose to spend my time with you as opposed to someone else, I'd rather know we're having an impact that's positive in the world. Number two, ask me how we can get better. Let's sit down as a group and talk about it. Let's not skirt the issues. If there's a policy that's getting in the way, let's fix it. If there's a system that doesn't work the way it should and it's creating 15 workarounds, let's fix it. Asking me what I know about how we can fix it and then wanting to go after it is really, really positive. And I think just a couple of those things, doing them more consistently, more routinely, could potentially help us a little bit with this whole quiet cracking thing. I don't want people to think that I'm Pollyannish and idealistic here, because I'm certainly not. But I just think something is broken in how we are managing our teams today. And we certainly can do a hell of a lot better at improving that and improving the dynamic that we can create.